Alrighty. Hello, everyone. I hope I'm coming in okay. I did a debate the other day and I was dropping out repeatedly. So, hello and welcome, audience. Welcome, Professor Dave. Happy to have you on.
Happy to be here.
Oh, well, wonderful. That is terrific. I'm a fan of the channel. I'm a recent fan. I only came across your videos maybe a couple months ago. But I have been watching a whole bunch. I have like a 20-minute drive to work, and so it's a good time to get different videos in there. So
Nice.
For anyone who may not know, would you like to give maybe a sort of brief introduction?
Sure. Yeah, I Dave Farina, run a channel called Professor Dave Explains, predominantly curriculum aligned academic tutorials in a wide variety of subjects, mainly physical and biological sciences, but also other stuff. And then recently have sort of started doing some debunking as well, which people seem to like. So I'm going to keep doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you started with as a organic chemistry, right? And you were uploading those to a channel, and it sort of grew from there.
Yeah, I had been teaching organic chemistry at a trade university, and I was just looking for some passive income, and I thought, all right, I will deliver my lectures to camera as though I'm teaching my class, put them online, see what happens, and the rest is history.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean they're very good tutorials. I got my bachelor's in organismal biology in the year of our Lord 2020, and so I had to take organic chemistry as part of that, and I'm not a fan of it. I'm sorry to say, it's not my. I'm more of a scaled up, broad strokes sort of person, like looking at biogeographic distribution of organisms and things like that.
To each their own. Yeah,
that's true. You know, it takes all types, as they say.
Yeah.
And your way of looking at things, looking at sort of the physics and the chemistry of things, is very amenable to debunking people like homeopaths and anti-vaxxers and quantum mystics and all these sorts of guys.
Correct. Yeah. I have no tolerance for I have a lot of tolerance for ignorance, but I have very little tolerance for charlatanry and people who try to take advantage of those who are ignorant. And I also have very little tolerance for not just willful ignorance, but the arrogance of those who fall for some of this stuff, that they assert their ignorance above actual scientific knowledge. You know what I mean? If you don't understand science, that's totally fine. You could say, man, I just don't know how science works. But to say, I don't know how, the attitude of, I don't know how science works, therefore it's wrong, and this fantasy or this story that I like must be true. You know, it's just, it really sickens me. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's understandable. And we'll get into this in a little bit, but I tackle with creationists a lot. But sort of one of the first videos that was recommended to me by the by our Lord YouTube algorithm was your electric universe debunk. I'd never heard of that before.
Yeah.
So if you want, would you give like a brief sort of summary of that, please?
Well, okay, so it's very complicated, but there's sort of this little corner of the internet that is devoted to the idea that physics is wrong, physicists are wrong, Einstein was wrong, everybody's wrong. And this is peddled by a few different threads. Honestly, it's not really one thing. But I'd say the dominant thread is these guys, the Thunderbolts Project, Walt Thornhill, Don Scott, these kind of guys, and they peddle pseudoscience that is of the variety that he has his electric gravity. Basically, just all these guys have in common is that physics is wrong. All the things they say are not even compatible with each other. Just the thread is physicists are wrong. Dark matter is crazy, and general relativity is crazy, and all of this is dogma and pseudoscience. And then they just offer some ridiculous crap that they made up that is completely incompatible with reality and with observation and things. But they talk about it very authoritatively. They take on the guise of an academic, and then people who have an anti-establishment bias will fall for it. People who like the little thing of, man, I knew something was fishy. I knew scientists are wrong, or the government is wrong, or big pharma is wrong, right? Anyone who wants to rage against some kind of perceived machine is susceptible to falling for this kind of narrative. And to them, they don't understand what a physicist says. They don't understand what the electric universe guys say. They just choose that because it's a fun story for them to be kind of like, ooh, I'm a pioneer. Like I'm on the train, you know, I'm in the club, so to speak. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that I feel that has been ramped up extensively in recent years, just with the COVID pandemic. Everybody's a virologist now, right? They don't read technical literature. They don't know what a p-value is or anything really, and they're just saying, "Oh, you know, the researchers say this." Did they? Did they really say that?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's tricky because the thing is, people are getting increasingly skilled at peddling misinformation that resembles real information. So, you know, there's a certain type of person that does not require any kind of like, you know, validation from the scientific literature, and they just go, some guy on the internet told me viruses aren't real, so
Right.
they're not, you know. And so that's the bottom of the barrel. But then there are people who are a little more intelligent and even slightly skeptical, that if somebody said, look, here's this paper, never mind that it is not from a peer-reviewed journal, you don't know the name of the journal, it looks exactly like an article from a more prestigious journal, so just aesthetically, cosmetically, it looks like the same as real science. And it's got a bunch of stuff, that words that they don't understand, just like real science. So I mean, it becomes really, really hard to discern what's going on. And then the problem is, you have most of the doctors that peddle misinformation are not doctors, but some of them are. And you know, you have people that, you know, have some kind of credential to fall back on, and you know, never mind that they're outnumbered 10,000 to 1. If you have the anti-establishment bias, you go, well, that guy's a doctor. You know who else is a doctor? All of these people. Do you want to listen to
Right.
all of the other doctors and not the one that's cashing in on this, on misinformation? But I have, obviously, I have some sympathy for people who fall for those types, because
Right.
it's hard. The internet is it's a tricky landscape now. Every reality imaginable is present in some way. Anything you want to believe is there for you to find, and it's a big problem. It's probably the biggest problem facing humanity right now. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. To your point, I watched a podcast you were on recently, Myth Vision, where you
Mm.
mentioned that uh, you have Erica Gutsick Gibbon,
Yeah.
who is helping you with the anthropology scripts. I was actually just watching, like, literally just before this, as I was doing stuff, I was listening to a talk she was in the other day, where she's talking to a creationist, and this is a guy who publishes articles in the like Answers in Genesis, their creation journal. And you're right, it looks like a scientific paper. It's got an abstract, it's got introduction, it's got a materials and methods section and supplementary materials and all this sort of stuff. And you're right,
Yeah.
it becomes very difficult. There's that selective
That's
pressure there
That's their
for.
shtick now. Like, the time of the Kent Hovind is gone.
Mhm.
Creationists acknowledge that he's a buffoon, and they're embarrassed by him. So they try, the Discovery Institute and these other propaganda organizations, their new thing is to try to make their creationism look like science. They want it to
Mhm.
look just like real science. They want to spin this narrative of, oh, there are scientists, like, we don't know, you know, it's
Mhm.
uncertain, like some scientists say this, sometimes no they don't. No, they don't.
Right.
Scientists say this, you guys who are apologists say something else. But they want to muddy the waters. They want to make it so that um, it's no longer enough to just use basic logic. You know,
Mhm.
you can use basic logic to disarm Kent Hovind's dumb analogies, but to
Right.
disarm the rhetoric of the Discovery Institute, you need some knowledge of biology. Not even that much though, but a bit. You know what I mean? Like you had
Yeah.
to, halfway through a biology bachelor's degree would be more than enough to go, this is ridiculous. So, but
Right.
yeah.
And we will get back to the Discovery Institute shortly because you again are making some big waves with with a couple of videos in that
hmm
regard.
hmm
Um, I did want to point out that the so I was referencing my notes. You did a video on quantum mysticism. You went after Deepak Chopra and all those other guys. And I love the way that you approached it because your approach very simply was to define the terms, right? Because you're never going to get them to define their terms. It's kind of like getting creationists to try to define what a kind
Yeah.
is. It's if you
Yeah.
tell them or if you ask them, what does energy mean? It's just there's nothing there.
Yeah.
But with the way you did it, you were like, okay, this is what work is, this is what energy is, and now let's look at their claims. I love the way that you went about that.
Yeah, and then of course you can predict the backlash. Oh, you have such a narrow-minded view of what energy is. No, I just know what the word means, and
Right.
therefore I know when people are using it improperly. But yeah, it's hard. Any angle you take, it'll have some efficacy, but then another subset will be lost. I mean, it's just impossible to get through to everybody. But
Sure.
yeah, you gotta pick a strategy and go with it. So
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. One of my favorites, and I say that tongue in cheek, of course, is the word macroevolution, for instance,
hmm
or kind, or even just the word evolution. Because anytime you have these conversations with creationists, and they hear that word macroevolution, their brain's somewhere else. They're thinking of a frog that gave birth to a
pine tree.
lizard, yeah, or a pine tree or something like
Yeah,
that.
because that's what the preachers tell them,
Yeah.
right? Their conception of biology is fantasy, which makes sense to them because they believe in fantasy. So I have
Mhm.
my fantasies, you have your fantasies, but
Right.
that's propaganda. That's the whole point of propaganda.
Yeah.
To delude. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's always necessary to give these sort of robust definitions at the starting point because then the audience I think can see who's using this term consistently, who's not using this term consistently.
hmm
What's his name? Dembski and the other guys at the Discovery Institute using like complex specified information
hmm
when it doesn't really mean anything. It's like it's sort of a theoretical concept, but it doesn't map to anything in the genome.
Yeah, I think that with a lot of those apologists, a lot of what they do relies on trying to portray the concept of information as though it is a substance that
Mm-hmm.
requires an origin, whereas it's just a pattern of matter. So once you explain how biomolecules polymerize, so you don't need to explain the origin of information
Right.
at all, right? It's just once you have the pathways. All right, we've got nucleic acids, the order of nucleotides is random. That's your information, right? It's a pattern of matter. So yeah. I
Right.
think I'm kind of planning on going down the line. Honestly, I haven't started yet, but I have an idea to just like demolish the DI and just go one by one every single one of their figures and do to them what I did to James Tour, and
Yeah.
I hate them so much. I really want to just humiliate them. So
Yeah. We can talk about that. You've done two tour videos now. Yeah.
yeah, well, there was the first one, and then his
Mhm.
response, and then my two-part response to his
Right.
response. It was
Right.
a
Yeah.
circus sideshow.
But he put out like a 9-hour video in response, wasn't it? Something like that, which I think was
Yeah,
just a compendium of his other videos. Like it
yeah,
wasn't
it's
new,
so
right?
it's so funny because it was like a 14 video series that he put
Hmm.
out slowly, which is what I responded to. And then I know people kept linking me to the fact that he re-released it as one video, which is like
Hmm.
9 hours or something. And people kept being like, haha, James Tour, dunked on Professor David Kennedy. It's like, you guys, it's all the content he already made that I already debunked to smithereens, re-released in one video. How much more transparently can you show that you didn't watch anything he did or anything I did, that you think this is new content? Like, what is wrong with you people? The balls on this guy to put this back out after, like, it just goes to show you that community is like, they don't care about reality. Like, they will never watch the 2-part series of that. I'll get comments over there like, how dare you, James, for blah blah blah. It's like, what, why are you so afraid to watch?
He's an organic chemist, darn it. or synthetic chemist. Sorry, yeah, it's
synthetic organic chemist. Well, actually, not necessarily organic, but yeah, synthetic chemist.
He has the creds. How dare you attempt to, he tour doth speak, and so it was, right?
Yeah, therein lies the hypocrisy of that particular brand of argument from authority. When someone says, "Hey, look at what all scientists say," well, that doesn't matter. So they might be wrong, but look at what this one scientist says. He must be right. So,
I am not a as I said, I'm not a chemistry person. I've read precious few papers on abiogenesis and origin of life research, and I do think it is all very interesting. Some of the bits that have sort of stuck out to me is like the alkaline hydrothermal vent hypothesis, and how you have these metal catalysts which are like naturally present, and these could allow for these reactions to take place which are not thermodynamically favorable, and suddenly we can start getting very simple like monomers and things like that. I think that's really interesting, and they just kind of go, nah, screw all that.
Yeah, well, they either just don't address it, or if they want to try to get technical, they try to like just do as whatever word salad they can to dismiss it. But yeah, there are plenty of geochemical, geothermal mechanisms. It's actually the thermal vent hypothesis is now kind of, I don't know about discarded, but is not really the most favored. I think things are shifting or have shifted to the hot spring model.
Okay.
But I'm not like a leading expert on this. I just, in fact, I learned so much about it in having to craft that tour response. I had to read all those papers, and I actually talked to all of these researchers personally, to try to get some of them involved. And so I learned a ton. I'm actually I'm glad about it, because I got to dunk on tour, but also I just learned so much and got in touch with these researchers and things like that. So
absolutely. And I did think it was very funny that and this is also something you mentioned in the Myth Vision podcast, was that so many of them are like, we just don't want to give the time of day to
why would they?
Right. Yeah. They're too busy writing papers, teaching classes, all this other stuff. And they're
it's not even just that they're too busy. It's just, it's so beneath them. You know what I mean? It's like, ugh, it's my job. I'll do it,
No,
I'm not a scientist.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I agree that it's mostly, the people who are science communicators who are really engaging with these things, even though it's kind of, because in some sense it's sort of unfortunate, because the people who may have like the most insight are like, I'm not dealing with that. That's internet land,
It is a shame. It is a shame. And I applaud any scientist who takes the time and the initiative to be involved in some degree. Lee Cronin was the most willing, the most willing to help in the way of giving me an interview. And several of them were willing to look over the content and spot check for any kind of, places where they could insert, I got a lot of like, when you're talking about this, you need to talk about this paper. Here, use this paper. I got a lot of that from a lot of different researchers, just because they know, you know what I mean? Like, you need to be, when you're talking about autocatalysis, you have to talk about Gerald Joyce. This is the best example of this. You're talking about this, that kind of thing. So, so it was great, because I got to learn so much directly from the source. I feel like I kind of tapped into the heart of origin of life research a little bit, and don't understand it obviously as well as they do, but way, way, way better than the layperson, such that I can sort of hand deliver some of it in a way to people. And in fact, I got a lot of comments like that where people were like, man, like, I don't really care so much about the beef with James, but this served as like a nice little summary of where we are at with Origin of Life research. And I didn't know any of that. And so this was really cool to watch for that reason. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is stunning when people hear a lot of like creationist arguments saying like, you guys don't really know all that much about Origin of Life stuff, and maybe because it's not their particular field or the person who's listening, they're like, okay, maybe we don't know all that much, and then they look into this, even a little bit, and they're like, oh, wow. Holy crap. And analogously, it's the same. It's sort of the same with like consciousness stuff, because there are lots of theists out there who are like,
it has to be the soul. What consciousness is. Yeah,
right. You have no idea how the brain connects with consciousness and all this other stuff, and it's like, there's all this research out here. Why is none of that?
Have you checked at all?
Right.
And that's not to say we know everything there is to know about consciousness. It's just that, it's a jigsaw puzzle and we're filling it in, and it's that is the arrogance of the creationist, of the apologist, is to project their own profound ignorance onto the entire human race. And then by extension, their followers do the same, because they see someone with an authoritative tone saying, we know nothing. And they're like, yeah, no need to check into that. It's like, but I feel that way about literally every area of science. Is once you learn, once you delve into one area of science in some depth, which anyone with a bachelor's degree in some area of science has done, right? We may not be experts, but we've opened the door, went into that room and went, wow, this room is huge.
Right.
Anyone who has done that knows that it's the same for any other field, and we can peek in any other door and go, man, I don't know what's going on in there, but that's a really big room too. The only people who are not aware of the profound expanse that is every single scientific field are people who have never learned anything. So they have no clue. Like, they're sitting in the lobby and they've never opened any of the doors.
Right.
And so they think the lobby is all there is. Like, you know what I mean? Their ignorance is all there is to it, and it's just such a revolting feature. I wish I could show people, like, no, there's so much. It's okay that you don't know it, but it's not okay to pretend it's not there,
Right. Yeah, so that's sort of what gave Kent Hovind such popularity, was that confident arrogance that I've seen it all, there's nothing over there, and then he gets corrected on the same points for 30 years.
Yeah, well, he's the primo example of a con man in this sphere. I mean, he'll never change his script ever.
I have to say that debate you participated with him was brutal. Like, I like that you prefaced it with like, I'm not normally like this, but it was Kent Hovind, so I get a pass.
What a shit show. Yeah. I would like to go back and like, I didn't fully know what was about to happen. I was aware of him, but I should have done a little more in the way of like seeing what his tactics were. Like, I knew some of his talking points. Like, I went online and was like, who's this guy? Oh, these are some of the things he says. Right. Here are my responses to these talking points. But I didn't really look at him debating, so I didn't know like his slimy debate tactics. So that completely caught me off guard. For him to be like blah blah blah, and then I disprove what he says to his face, and then he says it again. It was like, what is happening right now? I couldn't handle it.
Right. So. Absolutely. Super chat from Vandalia 1998 for $10. Who says, "Hey Jackson, sorry I have to leave early, but if I don't get people their Big Macs, the world might end. Can't wait for our next episode. And Dave, the invite for you to be on my show is open. So thank you, Vandalia. Yeah, absolutely. The Discovery Institute guys, kind of want to circle back to them. I've had my own run-ins with the Discovery Institute. I actually we here on my channel, because there are a few of us who who do the scripts, we had a back and forth with their spokesperson on YouTube, who is this new guy named Long Story Short. He does little cartoons for the Discovery Institute YouTube, and he's like, cordial with us, but just bonkers with his arguments. Like he really argued the platypus is a chimera in our back and forth, and people watch that video where he said that, and there's comment after comment on their video where the people are like, wow, it's so great listening to these calm people have this rational discourse. Like, are you serious? Does that sound calm and rational to you?
No, yeah. When it's just the art of deflection, right? If you want to deflect to credentials, you deflect to credentials. If you want to deflect to criticizing someone's tone, you deflect to criticizing someone's tone. So either either I'm mean and nasty, I'm a mean guy, and don't listen to me because I'm a mean nasty guy,
right?
Or all of the literal ad hominems being thrown my way about, oh, Dave's not even a real scientist, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
The hypocrisy is just astounding. It's hypocrisy whack-a-mole when you talk with these people. So
yeah, you're absolutely right. Maybe it's something you'll look into in the future with like Behe's arguments, because you said you want to go after the different Discovery Institute people. So maybe like the waiting time problem, where he just ignores that recombination happens, or he starts with like a population of one individual, and it's like these asexual populations, and because he has to load the deck as much as he possibly can against evolutionary scenarios to make it as ridiculous as it can possibly sound. And he published a paper, and then like an actual population geneticist came out and was like, your math doesn't make any sense. And he literally responded with, I don't understand your objection. Like,
did he made content about it? Like he did a YouTube thing or something? Or
he put posts on, I believe it was either Evolution News or the Discovery Institute website. It was like he published a paper. It was Behe and Snoke 2004, I think.
A paper, yeah.
Yeah. I think it was in the Journal of Theoretical Biology. Correct me if I'm wrong out there, but I do believe that's where it was. Which is like a pay-to-play journal. But then others saw it, other like actual scientists saw it, and they're like, this doesn't make any sense. And I love that his response was, I don't understand what your argument is.
Yeah, I mean, all creationists need to do is to dress it up so that it's unintelligible to lay people. Right? Because then real science is confusing, and that is confusing, so it's the same. And now it just becomes, which one is my team? Right? That's all it is. And it's not that hard to do, to make something look too complicated. Right? All you need is enough. You need some buzzwords, and you need some math. And most people, even educated people, even intelligent people, might go, I don't feel like I'm not going to engage with this. Right? I'm not going to take the time to deconstruct this,
because it does take time. Like if it's something that where they make a lot of factual claims, it can take hours to go through like a few minutes of their video.
Yeah, which is a great testament to the notion that this is deliberate deceit and not stupidity, because somebody that's just stupid is, every now and again I get people commenting on my channel or emailing me, and it's just like, relativity is wrong, here's why, and it's gibberish. It's unintelligible gibberish. Okay, you are a lunatic, but in order to dress it up, right, to be as deceitful, to be as convincing as possible, you have to understand what you're talking about. So these people have to probably, I imagine, understand evolutionary biology to the point where they understand its validity. So I mean, with these figures, it's so hard to understand the degree to which they are just lying, or the degree to which they are self-deluding because they put their faith above scientific reason, and so it's like a battle, and they're doing like a, I don't know, like a Tyler Durden thing in their head or something. I don't know what is going on in their brains. It seems very painful and very very difficult.
Yeah,
I don't know.
absolutely. Yeah, that was the sort of the shocking thing was how you found the video where Tour's like, I'm a Christian. Is it okay for me to say I don't understand evolution?
Yeah.
And it's like he's okay with saying that. He can let the mask slip because he's in front of a friendly audience.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just amazing. Like, I know there are some instances out there where creationists will say, like, yeah, there's evidence for evolution, but Christianity comes first, so no to that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they love to cite examples of scientists who believe in young Earth or something like that, but they neglect to disclose that those people are not using any kind of scientific evidence or reason to come to that conclusion. They are allowing their faith to overwhelm reason. They're saying science says this, faith says this, and I say faith wins. So it's not like somebody is using geological evidence to promote a 6,000-year-old Earth. They're ignoring geological evidence to believe in a 6,000-year-old Earth.
Right.
So that's never fully revealed in those kinds of moments.
Yeah. Do you have I suppose, do you have ideas for future debunks? Do you have anything on like moon landing hoaxers, for instance, or stuff like that?
That is an interesting one. Maybe I'm not immediately planning it because that kind of stuff is not like it's harder, and it's also a little less science and a little more government-y. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Big conspiracy.
Yeah, like I don't really know. Like I'm not about to do like QAnon and like political stuff like that.
Sure.
And like, but the moon landing, obviously, you can approach it from a scientific perspective. I think I would only do that if I was to hire a consultant who could better do it, because it's all about like, oh, like the lights and the shadows and the things like that. And so like I don't know, yeah, that kind of stuff was not. I mean, hopefully I'll hit it all over the next decade or so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really want to do some of this creationism stuff. I'm going to focus on DI and maybe just like a general guide to debunking young Earth creationism. I might circle back to Electric Universe because I didn't really fully hit like Wall Thornhill and those key figures. Other than that, I'm interested in getting into the medical realm. There's a lot of fake doctors on YouTube, and they get really popular. So two figures I touched on in other debunks, I think both were in the Quantum Mysticism debunk, were Eric Berg and Sadhguru. And in the debunk, I mentioned that those two would probably get future debunks, and I've had a lot of people be like, please do them, especially Sadhguru, because he's wildly influential in India and a very, very toxic influence. So, yeah, I have a lot of viewers in India. I don't know how that would go if India would both embrace and revile me simultaneously if I tried to take down that guy. But in the end, I'm sure I would not successfully take him down. I would just offer another perspective on YouTube that might sway some people. But yeah, there's so many freaking frauds out there, man. It just boils my blood.
No, yeah, I agree with you. Have you ever heard of a Carrie Madej?
I have not.
She, in her last name is, and I believe that's how it's pronounced. Her last name is Madej. So she is like an actual osteologist, but she is an anti-vaxxer in that she believes the COVID vaccine is like turning us into cyborgs, which I'm like totally on board with. That would be lit. Unfortunately, I don't think that's the case.
It's among the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life.
I'm happy to make the list.
Yeah,
I'm honored. Truly, I know there's some stiff competition probably for that.
Yeah, it's hard. Like when you pick targets, I mean, I kind of want to go for bigger fish. You know, I want to go for I don't know, but then again, also people that just piss me off. Like Ben Davidson attacked me viciously, so I'm very vindictive. So I demolished him. Like if you want to see a debunk of somebody, either get them to attack me or pretend to be them and attack me, and I'll get really irritated and I'll do a debunk. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I don't tolerate that stuff. I don't like bullies, and I'll kill you. I'll eviscerate you.
yeah.
So
I would like to do more of that. I basically have all of my focus right now on this one series I'm doing, which is uh, like an overview of the Ancestors Tale by Richard Dawkins, which is a really good book on evolutionary history. I'm doing sort of chapter by chapter analysis, but there are, every so often I'll see a video by PragerU is like, for instance, stepped into the intelligent design realm recently, and not just with the Steve Meyer video they put out like a year or so ago, but like a whole series now on intelligent design.
not
And
surprising. Conservative propaganda and religious propaganda are a Venn diagram with a lot of overlap.
right, yeah, the whole the climate change, like anti-climate change, and the uh intelligent design, it's almost a single circle, right? But yeah, I wish I could go after some of those guys, because, for instance, with our long story short back and forth, um, it got to the point where he skipped like half of our video in his debunk, and at that point I was like, I'm done. I quit, because he's not even addressing our points, right? And he just sort of homed in on this one thing we said, um, but yeah, we
Yeah.
absolutely need people to do that.
Yeah,
That
the
sort of stuff.
response is like this is Sky Scholar guy that I debunked. He made a response video, and in it, he literally did not respond to the main points of the debunk. It's
Yep.
just that when frauds get attacked, they need to save face somehow, and they tend to rely on the fact that their followers will not go look at the other thing. So
Mm.
they're oblivious. They won't know the difference. So he could make any piece of content he wanted, and he fixated on a couple small things I said, and just lied about them right anyway. Like he just
Right.
like changed the context, and is just like, see, I responded. It's like, did you though? Like it was so
Right.
pathetic that I didn't even respond to it. Like did not respond to my debunk. So I don't know.
Right.
There's just not that much you can do in
Right.
certain scenarios.
I know you said you have about 5 minutes left. So I guess as sort of a final question. I saw you started doing an evolutionary biology series, and that's like cladistics, phylogenetics, all that sort of stuff, and that's
Oh yeah,
uh,
zoology. It's a zoology series.
yeah, zoology. And that's all stuff that interests me. Do you have any other future fields you want to jump into?
Oh, everything. I mean, I can consult the list. I can tell you what's coming up next.
Oh, sure.
The next thing I'm going to start releasing is inorganic chemistry, followed by geology. I'm going to
Mm,
pick mycology back up. Then
nice.
philosophy is coming. Forensic science is coming. I'm starting pharmacology back up.
Hmm.
I have lots and lots and lots of good stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I one of the classes I TA is a botany lab,
Mm.
and I really, even though my education was predominantly animals, I really have developed an appreciation for plants and also for fungi, because they also get lumped into botany. It's just,
Hmm.
it's,
Yeah.
if it doesn't move, it's a plant,
That's
right?
right. That's right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. That's why we make the content. We want people to learn. I mean, I didn't know it's great with all this stuff. I mean, I hire writers, like it's not like I know this stuff. And it's so cool. Like with all of the like I didn't know much about biological sciences beyond biology. So like botany and mycology and all this stuff. So like I
Mhm.
get to learn for work. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's cool. It's kind of like
Yeah.
being a student, except I make a lot of money. Like. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's one of the great things about like teaching people, is you get to learn all this stuff yourself
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
solidify it in your own mind and then
Hmm.
pass it on to others.
Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely don't like retain most of it, but still the process of like reading and refining the scripts, and
Mhm.
then setting images and text to the script, it kind of gets in there, and I become vaguely familiar with the field, and then certainly there's points that don't quite stick, or definitions or examples that don't quite stick, but the general view remains, and I can always go back to it and like refresh my memory.
Right.
So I have a general sense of each field when I put out the content, and it just sort of makes me a much better generalist. I have a much broader view, even though my knowledge is not very deep in most of these fields. It's becoming increasingly broad, which I think has tremendous value.
Right. And I mean, in some ways, that broadness almost functions as a deepness, right? If you're
In a
like
sense.
very spread out, like, in chemistry, even though it may not be the some way deep point, but you can respond to most of the points they throw at you simply on the basis of this widespread knowledge, right?
Yeah, I mean, it comes in handy when you have like misinformation gish gallopers, like
Mhm.
Kent or somebody that will lie about geology and biology and chemistry and astronomy and all these
Right.
fields. It's like their lies tend to be very shallow as well. So my basic understanding of all of those fields is plenty
Right.
to deconstruct all that. Whereas somebody who's a PhD biochemist may or may not be able to address some very dumb lie about cosmology, right?
Right.
They might not be able to. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I guess as one final point, you came out with a book
Hmm.
recently, and that book is already on my Amazon wish list. Is this Wi-Fi organic?
Hmm.
Is the title of it, and so it is on Amazon. I plan on reading that in the future. I have so many books on the shelf right now as it is. So,
Awesome. You'll probably already know almost everything in it, but or in terms of like the academic content.
okay.
But hopefully there's some fun applications that you'll enjoy, or you'll just at least find it entertaining and amusing. So
Absolutely. I mean, I like
yeah.
your presentation style. I can't speak. And clearly, lots of other people do. Your
Hmm.
videos getting the hundreds of thousands, if not over a million views.
Hmm.
So clearly, lots of people do appreciate your style of giving them information. So yeah, absolutely. I still look forward to it. Simply because it can serve as a reference if I need to point other people to
Yeah.
how to debunk the nonsense about like
Right.
organic things are dangerous
Yeah.
or GMOs or whatever what have
There's
you.
some
So
good talking points you can put in your bag for later use. Yeah.
right, absolutely. So thank you very much for coming on, Professor Dave.
Yeah. Happy to do it.
You're always welcome on in the future. Thank you everyone in the live chat for watching, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye now.